Leaving a stable engineering career wasn't an easy choice for me, but sometimes the need for a change is stronger than staying comfortable. In today's video, I'm sharing the story of how I got into the engineering industry, why I decided to leave, and the steps I took to completely change my career. Now, if you're feeling stuck in a job that doesn't excite you or doesn't fulfill you, keep watching because this one is for you. Hey peeps, welcome to the channel. My name is Aziz and I'm a 24 years old salesperson based in Canada. And on this channel, I try to share my short life experiences so people that are in the same spot I was a few years ago can learn and benefit from. Let's get to it. So let's start all the way from high school. In high school, honestly, I was just a lost kid in high school, didn't speak the language. I didn't have friends. I was just wasting time playing video games, even though like I was still, taking care of my studies and my homework and stuff, but I was just wasting time playing video games. I finished grade 12 without knowing what I wanted to do after high school. And the last couple of months in grade 12, I was also working in a bakery, kind of like part time, full time. Not full time, but part time, a bit more than part time. And I was comfortable, I was making money, but without real vision to my future. And to be honest, to some degree, I thought that I would, just spend the rest of my life in a bakery because I was comfortable, I was making money, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to go to college. So I asked my mom what is the best thing to major in after high school, and she was like, go with engineering, any kind of engineering. So I applied for civil engineering and other type of professions as well, like police foundations or, truck mechanic. I know it's kind of odd. And the reason I applied for truck mechanic is because I wanted to do something like with my hands. I love labor jobs. I don't know why, but I always liked it, and I still like labor jobs. But yeah, my whole career after high school and the professions that I applied to were just a mess. I ended up getting accepted to all of them, so I just went with civil engineering. I went to college for 2 years. It was a 3-year program, but I finished it in 2 years because I took summer school. So finished college in 2 years and worked in the industry for 2.5 years. I met great people in college. It was such a good time. Made a lot of friends in college. I only keep up with a couple of them to these days, but it was such a fun time. So I graduated in 2020. Then in 2022, I found a job in the engineering industry, and that was like at a consultant firm called Arup. At my job, I met great coworkers. It was like a great experience working at Arup. Culture was 11 out of 10. People were 11 out of 10. They were very welcoming, and they were always like down to earth to party and to work with at the same time. So it was just an amazing culture, and I'm still in touch with all my coworkers, previous coworkers at that company. My supervisor, the team lead, the other coworkers. They were good people. Helped me a lot in my career. They were always willing to help. Well, now you might ask then, why did I leave the industry? And honestly, it's a fair question. There are two main reasons to why I decided to leave the industry. One was the work I was doing. Second was the money I was making. So let's just start with the money part first. When my previous company offered me a full-time job, they offered me 60K as a starter. And honestly, I did not care about money back then. The reason for that is really because I wanted to get in the industry and just wanted to start working in the industry because that's what I studied for. So I was like, you know what? My mentality back then was the money will follow. Let me just learn. Let me just expand my skill set, and then the money will follow. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The money didn't follow. I was learning a lot, but the money didn't follow. So when did I know that the money isn't going to follow? Is when I did my first appraisal. Now keep in mind, I've never worked in a professional setting before. I didn't know what the hell appraisal was. So I'm just going to explain it for the people who don't know what the appraisal is. So basically an appraisal, I don't know if it's different from company to company, but at least the appraisal where I was working is every year. I think every October you have a meeting with your supervisor to go over your performance, what all the projects you work on. You kind of like reflect on all the projects you worked on and what you've learned from it. And you basically write and speak to your manager about everything that you did that added value to your team. That's basically the whole appraisal thingy is. And also you discuss salaries during appraisals. So during my first year, my performance was awesome, and that's based on feedback that I got from my coworkers. I got great feedback, and I did feel like I added a lot of value to my team because I was kind of like raising my hands to hard tasks, and I really wanted to do them because I knew that the more you do those hard tasks, the more your colleagues were like you basically, and the more skills you'll gain and experience you'll gain basically, and also that could eventually reflect in your salary. So that's basically the whole thing. So my work was great and my performance was great. Then when it came to talk about my salary, that's where I kind of like did not expect it to be this low, like the increase of my salary to be this low. And maybe I didn't manage my expectations properly, but I definitely had different expectations from what I got. And based on what I heard and based on what they also like told me at the company, that the raise I got was significant compared to other people that works at at that company basically. And the raise I got, I think, was 10%. And they said, a lot of them said that that's a lot. And after talking to a lot of people in the company, I did realize that that raise to me was a lot actually. And the percentage was a lot. The increase in percentage was a lot in the company, but the dollar value, the dollar amount to me wasn't significant. 6K to me wasn't significant for the work I was doing. So to be honest, I was a bit like let down. I was discouraged a lot. And from that moment, I realized that I hated capped salary because I worked hard that year. Also the second year, I kept like working hard. It's not like I didn't give a shit after. But that year, I really worked hard, and I didn't expect that I would only get raised 6K by 6K a year. But the company had some like policies that they need to follow, and they just have to stick to them no matter how hard a person works. There are always policies with this huge enterprises, and their employees basically need to follow them. Now, in terms of the work that I was doing, I honestly wasn't passionate about like civil engineering and the work I was doing because I really didn't care about like 50 mil difference, even though it's a lot. It's like, yeah, like 5 centimeters. It's a lot, but 50 millimeters between like a sidewalk and a curb or landscaping area, I really didn't give a shit about that. So I wasn't really passionate about the work I was doing, even though like the idea of civil engineering is actually great. It's like to help your community, with roads, with sidewalks, with cycle tracks. It's the whole idea of like civil engineering is great, but I want to help my family before I help the community I'm living in. So that means I need more money to be comfortable doing work that help other communities or my community. So the idea was, in my mind, still is that I need to help my family first. And by that, I mean I need to retire my mom. I need to provide good living for my mom and sisters before I think of helping my community. And I still think that way. But the whole idea of civil engineering is actually great, and building, roads and cycle tracks to make your community better is great. And the project I was working on is actually 5 minutes away from my house. So yeah, I was working on like an LRT, which is basically a train in the middle of the roads. So it's the whole idea of making your community better is great. But yeah, I just needed to take care of my family financially first before I take care of my community. Also, a huge part of my job was really just doing technical work. And that's not really what I wanted to do, I guess, for the rest of my life. I really wanted to hone in my communication skills, client-facing skills, persuasion skills, because I knew those are the type of skills that will bring more money, and those are the type of skills I wanted to hone in, and I didn't have that opportunity to do it in my previous job. Also, I'm a very competitive person by nature in terms of anything, in terms of like work, in terms of video game, in terms of working out, in terms of personal life, anything. I'm just very competitive. I feel like I'm very competitive. I like to have targets to hit, but I guess like the target model in engineering, I wasn't really a big fan of. And the reason for that is because the target model in engineering is really just deadlines. They don't really give two shit about how much work you have put into your tasks. If you don't really meet your deadlines, they're not gonna, they're gonna appreciate your hard work, but they're still gonna expect from you to hit your deadline. And that's always the expectations. Hit the deadline with, quality work. I wasn't a big fan of hitting, the deadline type of model, like target model, because when you have too many problems to solve, that 1 week deadline is you're definitely not gonna hit it, and you're gonna miss a lot of deadlines. A lot of people, a lot of managers are like, okay with that sometimes. I wasn't okay with that because it made me doubt myself. It made me doubt my skills. And that kind of like affected my personal life as well, like after work. And I don't like that feeling. So yeah, I really wasn't like a huge fan of that target model because it felt to me that it wasn't fair. A lot of people, they try hard, they work harder, they work smarter, but sometimes you just don't hit that target. And when you don't hit that target, your PM will give you shit. Sometimes your supervisor will give you shit. Again, not all the time, but sometimes they do that because, things are critical sometimes. So yeah, those are the 3 reasons why I decided to leave engineering. I thought about leaving engineering the first time in 2023, end of 2022, 2023. That's when I realized I really wanted to leave engineering. Then I was like, you know what, let me just give it some time. Second appraisal came and it's the same thing. I was like, yeah, I can't really do this anymore. So I decided to leave, but I couldn't just leave the industry without finding a job. That's not me. I have like responsibility. I have responsibilities. I have like family to help. I gotta pay rent. I got to pay my bills as well. So I couldn't just leave, a very comfortable job without finding another job. And I was honestly thinking of switching to software engineering. But first, I was like, if I study software engineering in terms of like going into a boot camp or doing, self-study or go to college or university, it's going to take a while. It's going to take at least like a year to do a boot camp or to, do self-studies, and it will take 4 years to finish college. And college or university, I have to do it like full time. So it was going to take, a while, and then to look for a job that's going to take another like couple 3 months. Also, I really wanted to hone in my soft skills, and getting into software engineering, I don't think that's where you find your, soft skills. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of like off the list. I guess like one key point before I move on from software engineering, I really do value software engineering and coding skills. And I will still really be learning coding and software engineering. I'm actually in the process of learning software engineering, or whatever you want to call it, coding, programming. but I just don't want to work in this skill for somebody. I want to use it for my own advantage, and not my own advantage. I want to use it for my own benefit, not to work with this skill for somebody else. So I want to, I don't know, build my own projects, whatever, just play around with it and, just mess around with it and have that coding skills under my belt, because I really value it and I really do think it's worth it to learn coding and having that knowledge, because it could help you in many different ways. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. Anyways, after some time from researching on how to get into software engineering, I just decided to stop researching about anything related to changing careers. And the reason for that, because I think I was like getting, I don't know, depressed is a very big word for me, so I hate using it, but for lack of better words, I was getting depressed. So I stopped doing some research, and one day I was watching a YouTube video, and after that YouTube video finished, YouTube kind of recommended for me to watch another video, as always, and that video was called something tech sales. I didn't know what tech sales was. I only saw sales, and I was like, okay, let me see what that's about. So after I watched that video, I really liked the idea of tech sales, because what it was basically, it's sales and tech, really, as the name says. I guess the reason I was confused is because I didn't know what they're referring to by tech. Is it software? Is it hardware? What type of tech? What type of software? And yeah, I just wanted to see what's that was about. So I liked the idea, and I decided to dig into it some more, because to me it seemed like the perfect combination between, sales, hone in on my soft skills, and me trying to get into tech. So I was like, cool, perfect combination. So I decided to dig into it a bit more. Then I stayed on YouTube that day and just kept researching, how do I get into tech sales? How do I break into tech sales? And I was like, yeah, let's see where that takes me. So I kept researching, honestly, for a month or two, and then I found a guy named Eric, and he owns a platform called Higher Levels, and he seemed very convincing. He was genuine. He was also like an engineer, so he kind of come from the same background I come from in terms of like profession. So I kind of like resonated with his message. His course was for $500 USD. So I just got it. Just keep in mind that to get into tech sales, you really don't need to purchase a course like I did. It's really simple to get into tech sales. What hiring managers and your sales leader eventually want to see from their candidates and applicants, they just want to see that you're doing the job before actually getting the job. And what that means, if you don't know how to do sales, that's also like totally fine, but what that means is really like calling them out of nowhere, getting their number from like different software tools, and calling them and like treat them as like a prospect or a lead that you would reach out to if you have worked in that company. So they really just wanted to see you try and see you perform to get their attention, just like how you would perform to get leads and prospects to speak to when you get hired eventually. So you start with cold calling, cold emailing, reaching out to them on LinkedIn, and just ask basically for an interview or for a chance. There's obviously like a playbook to go by it, but this is just a very oversimplified version of it. 2 months after I purchased his course, I got an offer from a company called Codility. I try not to say Codility because a lot of people be like, what? So I say Codility, and basically I got an SDR position, and that's a bit different from like you're still a salesperson, but it's a bit different from like actually selling a product, because as an SDR, which is a sales development representative, or a BDR, which is a business development representative, or an ADR, which is an account development representative, they're all the same, just different abbreviations. And basically what that means, you're really not trying to sell a product. Like obviously you're calling them from, your company that you're working for, and you're kind of very vaguely introducing the product to your leads and prospects, but you're really not trying to sell the product. You're just trying to get them on a meeting for the actual closers, for the people who actually sell the product. So the way we, talk about it is like, as an SDR or BDR or ADR, we're actually trying to sell a meeting with the closer rather than selling a product. So the closer is basically the person who closes the deal, who try it at least to close the deal, and that person is called the AE, which is the account executive. So just wanted to point out the difference between, I guess, like positions, because we are all salespeople at the end of the day, but we're kind of like selling two different things, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have been in the industry now for, I think, 5 to 6 months now, and honestly, I'm loving it. I can control how much I earn, because with like the salary in tech sales, they kind of don't give you, just base salary, and they don't give you just commission. It's kind of split, and my split is 70% base salary. And basically what that means is, like any normal job, every 2 weeks you get paid that specific amount, and that's basically 70% of my total salary. And then you get 30% that's just commission. If you perform well, you'll get that salary. And for me, as an SDR, performing well means booking meetings for those closers. If I do that, I get a nice fat commission. If I don't do that, it's just really my base salary. And if I don't do that for a year, you're kind of get fired. But that's the risk that comes with good money, basically. So yeah, 70% base, 30% commission, and the commission is really uncapped. So if my salary is 60K, and then you have whatever 40K base and 20K commission, then that 20K is really uncapped. So you can turn that 20K into, you can, pass it to 40K, 50K, whatever, it doesn't matter. When you say it, it's very like compelling and very nice to hear, but it's actually very hard to make. So with my current salary right now, and that's like combined like base and commission, I passed 6 figures. And I keep in mind, like I only have been in this industry for like 5 to 6 months. So as a starter SDR, you're making, 6 figures already. You're passing 6 figures, and that's fucking huge to me. So that was great. So I'm already making way more money, at least like past 40K difference than what I was making in engineering. Also, right now I'm learning all the skills that I really wanted to learn, which are the soft skills, communication, persuasion, and client-facing skills. So I'm adding those skills to my skill set, and also will be adding a lot of value to my team as I keep learning. Now, if you haven't watched my first video where I introduced myself to you guys and gave you a little bit of background about myself, make sure to click right here.